Hello, everyone. I believe we are live. So, welcome once again to Investing with a Difference. So, we are back with our live stream. Our goal today is to talk about. I hope we are live. Let me quickly check. We are still not seeing the updates. But if you are, if you are able to see us, do mention in the comments and also keep asking questions. We have a chat which we keep looking at, and we will try to cover as many questions as we can. All right. So once again, I hope now it's everything is sorted out and we are live. So welcome once again. If we are just getting live right now. All right. So first of all, as you know, in last few days, it has been a lot of discussion around governance. So we will talk about governance a little bit. Dan is becoming very active again on Telegram, so we will talk about some of those items. Then I think, of course, we always start with the markets, and if this is what you're seeing, this is hourly chart of Bitcoin, and I'm sure a lot of you are wondering what's going on. So volatility is back. We are seeing quite a lot of ups and downs, and as I keep reminding you to always zoom out to a daily chart. And it looks like a correction at this moment. If you look at daily chart, we still had that exponential rise. We are very well settled above $10,000. That's interesting because we never broke down below 10,000 even after all the volatility. On the other hand, we did touch 14,000, which was pretty high mark, as you see. If you compare it with for $20,000 and all the way dropped to 3,000, we have recovered quite a lot in this up move. So it looks like still a pretty much a bull market even after all the correction in last few days. We have still not tested the previous high, which was around 9,200 or so, and 9,100 or so. So it's very much, I think, a positive bull run right now. Uh, the bad news for EOS been like we are all, I think, here for EOS community, and I think EOS was doing pretty bad since the June event. So now let's go and see where we were. So I think this is a little more a zoomed out chart. So let me go back and say where we are in this. Here we have uh, around, I think, June or April, we made highs, and then we almost went to pretty high point in June when around the B1 June when we made a recent high. So let's zoom out a little bit, zoom in a little bit, and maybe we can see. So I'm looking at Binance chart, by the way, because this is the only historical chart I'm able to get right now. Let me see if I can increase the size. All right. So we made a high, and if you remember, I was talking about this breakdown in one of the videos, and we see that we had broken down and went all the way to test our long-term support, which was around 50,000 Satoshi, 50K sats. And if you see here, this is almost like a triple bottom. That's a good news for EOS. As compared to Bitcoin, we are seeing the major support area, which was a double bottom last time on a longer term time frame, and it is now kind of bouncing back from here. Still not a huge bounce, but it's reasonably good. We are seeing a couple of positive candles, especially today. It looks like doing much better than the last few days. So overall, I think there is a hope that all the correction against Bitcoin in EOS price is uh, going away, and maybe we will get settled back into the up move. I think from the Bitcoin itself and the market, I think that usually drives the dollar price. From that perspective, I think the good news is that we are not breaking down below $10,000. So both ways, I think it looks like we are pretty much stable now. While it has not been great being an altcoin holder in this market, and I think this is where we are seeing some concern from people. Uh, as I said, it's always Bitcoin leads the rally. We have pretty stable market here in terms of long-term charts, and I'm still bullish. Again, as I keep reminding you, please don't take it as an investment advice. We are just commenting on the status of the market while trying not to tell you what to do with your own money. You have to do your own due diligence. Let me have a quick look. I think there are a couple of comments saying screen resolution looks blurry. We would recommend that you should reload your YouTube, because YouTube adjusts your screen resolution based on your bandwidth. So sometimes you are on a low bandwidth connection, You will see some blurry images. If anybody else is seeing, all of you are seeing that way, let us know. We do have a screen here which I look at, which shows me the live stream without audio, and I can see pretty good resolution. All right, guys. So please feel free to ask questions in the comment section. Let's have a look at the coin market cap and what the rest of the coins doing. I think it's a pretty much similar picture. I think altcoins are doing a little better in the last few 24 hours or so as compared to Bitcoin. But overall, the kind of underperformance most of these coins had in last week or 10 days since we had this exponential run, I don't think it matters now. And there's a lot of catching up to do for most of these coins. So we already discussed that. Now let's get back to the governance discussion. By the way, a lot of people have been questioning recent moves in the top BPs. So let me show you. As if you have been tracking this top 21 in EOS world, you see many new big names which are on the top, which have been a pretty new like face of top 21 block producer in EOS. I'm sure that this is something which is going to be a matter of discussion in a lot of channels. So we wanted to cover that. And I think some of the exchanges which we have seen, who.com, Big One, all these are exchanges, Nudex, Valex. Infinity Stone is not even an exchange. They are just a staking service. And I think these are, most of the others are the same, which we used to see all along. So I think all of these, what we are seeing right now, are kind of pushing down on some of the other big names which we are used to, like Liquid EOS, like EOS New York, EOS 42, EOS Authority. These were, I think, the usual top 21, which have been pushed out in the recent voting. So this has created a lot of concern, and people are questioning the governance. And even Dan Larimer came out, and he has today said in the Telegram channel that they are going to be working on a proposal to further define ideas around governance on how we can improve the current situation. So this means now it is accepted, even by Dan, that right now there is a problem in the way BPs are getting selected, which is a great news. That means it's B1 is going to come out. And when I say B1, I don't know whether it will be official B1 article or it will be Dan Larimer personal article saying that it's his personal views. Because I think in previously when Brandon Bloomer talked about one token, one vote, which we really like as an idea, he never followed up on that. I think maybe their lawyers are telling them against interfering with governance of EOS, because EOS is seen as decentralized chain, while Block 1, which owns 10% and which did an ICO, there's a big risk for EOS if SEC comes after them for saying that this is not decentralized and you are making decisions. So I think this is where it's going to be interesting how this plays out, whether Dan publishes, because definitely a lot of people in EOS are because of Dan. And if he is coming out with a proposal, I'm sure everybody will pay attention. Now, on the other hand, while we are looking at these, I always look back, and I think EOS Aloha has a very good reliability tracker. So while we are waiting for these governance aspects, we know that there has been some sort of vote trading, which we know that there have been the staking services, which have created some issues. So let me say that if we have to go about checking the reliability of the current set of block producers, you need to see that how reliable the current top 21 are, especially the new ones which have not produced a lot of blocks. So Nudex, at this moment, they have not missed a single round, so they are producing at 100% reliability. Valex is also producing at 100% reliability. Again, they are very new, so they have very few days of history, but I'm just trying to see if they are doing their job as a block producer, first of all. Same thing for Infinity Stone. Let's see where they are. And they have 99.91%. So I think most of them look, let me sort it with in terms of who is the top and who are the bottom in the top 21. So let's see if we can, this is not a good way, because I think the BP rank is most important, because we don't want to see the backup, because backup did not get to produce too much recently. All right, so do you see in the top 21, most of them are more better than 99.9%. Um, Bitfinex, which has been pretty long time producing ever since the mainnet launch, they are 90, perhaps the lowest, along with I think ZB, which is again a long time exchange. So I think these are still the statistics which I think are at least these block producers are producing. It's not an immediate problem for the network, while we agree that all of us agree that we need a better distribution of the block producers across continents, across the teams. And that is something which everybody is demanding. And hopefully, with the new proposal, some of these favorite block producers we have, which is New York Authority, Liquid EOS, and EOS Canada, Sweden, Argentina, all these are like great teams we have interacted with. They have got pushed down. So all these teams we are seeing in below, Gremas, EOS DAC, EOS Titan, I think all these we vote for as a if you are proxying with us and investing with the difference, we still vote for all these great block producers. If you go down the list, a lot of very very good block producers are still putting their efforts into making this, for example, 1.8 transition on test nets and so on. So it's a big thing, I think, for in terms of discussion. So we are waiting for this article. A lot of new ideas are coming across, and we want to make sure that people are paying attention. So if there's a referendum, do take part in that, either through our proxy or directly. So do take notice of this, because I think these all things will matter now. It's only been 1 year. A lot of changes are happening continuously in EOS world, and definitely these things will matter. So let me have a quick look at the comments once again. I do see some comments from Milenkos talking about EDNA, EDNA. And oh, definitely we love that project. I think it's a very very important project in terms of what they're doing. So I think if I see that you have a comment about there is an event tonight, so definitely please share it here in the comments and let people know, and more and more people can join. And for all those who are watching right now, we see quite a few right live, so do ask your questions if you have any about EOS. Overall, I think this is a great comment about I think EDNA and some other apps which we are seeing. A lot of good stuff is happening on EOS. So we talked about a little bit of disappointment I showed in my last stream. People misunderstood the comments about what I said, that I'm a little disappointed with the Block One and the Voice launch. Now, that doesn't mean that I was trying to hint at that I am negative about what is happening in EOS world, because I'm very, very positive about what's going on in general. Block One, and one more thing which came out, which I'm very excited about, and I was hoping that this should have happened much earlier, that Block One is now doing a webinar for developers directly with from their like developers are going to teach this session live. And this is happening on July 10th. And this will definitely, we are sharing with our meetup groups and so on. We have pretty big kind of community in California and in US. And also we're trying to build a worldwide community for developers. And definitely this is something we are sharing. So do share with any developer you know about this webinar, which is coming. I'm sure it is coming from Block One, so it should be of high quality, and this will help become as the first starting point for anybody looking to develop on EOS. So these are the kind of things I think we need from the community, from Block One. Definitely, as I mentioned in my last video, I was a little disappointed with what was going on from Block One. I think they are catching up, and it is good. So this is not a bad idea at all. And as I said, Voice, I was corrected by some people that 1.8 was not stable, even though it was the release candidate was available. So even on testnet, now I think yesterday the news came out that Block One has finally finalized this 1.8 code. And I'm really hoping that now, at least on their private testnet, Voice will be launched if that was the dependency. If not, I think we would still wait for that, because we do need a little more momentum from app side from Block One. But irrespective of that, as I keep saying, my biggest like positive is coming from community. It's not about what Block One is doing. It's about what teams are building. And definitely some of these projects which I talk to on an everyday basis, they are some of the best projects and best teams we have seen. So I think that will define where we are headed. Coming back to some other questions, let me see. I have a question about new decks. So they're offering extra rewards for staking with them. What is your opinion? Yes, it is worth buying, and I think a lot of people are upset about it. Now, it's a my view is kind of mixed because Nudex has been one of the biggest contributor in EOS ecosystem by creating the only DEX which is used by people. So I think definitely it is a great team. They have enabled so many tokens. Like if you are developing as a DApp developer, when we talk to them, Nudex has helped them create liquidity. They have created a platform for people to trade. Now, as a block producer, definitely it's not a good idea if you are buying votes and they are but at least they are transparent. They are sharing their revenue sharing plan. How much are they sharing with the voters? How much are they buying back as a token? Definitely it is not, I don't know which jurisdiction they work under. It's definitely not something which we can see most of the other block producers being able to do, because it's not going to be seen well by in from a legal term, from a taxation terms, and so on. There are so many other issues with this model, but they're able to do that. I would say I'm kind of neutral at this moment as long as Nudex can demonstrate they have a great, good enough BP to run, irrespective of how they got those votes. Now, vote trading itself is bad because, as you can see, that Nudex has maybe 7 to 8 million votes staked to them as far as I saw last time. So they are definitely trading votes with other block producers, and there is some revenue sharing there. So now this is a challenging phase because, as you know, okay, let's go back to the other top block producers. As we all know, Hobie, Big One, ZB, Who, all of these are in the same boat. I don't see they have done anything other than just running a BP node and earning rewards. Nudex is, and they are not even sharing any rewards with people. So I think this is Nudex. I would not term them as the villain here. It's more about they have defined a business model where they are trying to get into top 21 and trying to make a business for themselves while sharing all their BP rewards with people. On the other hand, and they are also contributing in EOS ecosystem. So why do we love some of the other block producers? Because they're building tools and they're building some good stuff. And Nudex, I think, has built one of the most useful tool, which is the only used exchange, the decentralized exchange, which we do need. So it's a very difficult to justify how a BP is adding value. We do love some of the block producer because they do tools, they enable people, and as a team, I do not want to discredit Nudex, but as a process of how they got into top as a BP in top 21, yes, we don't agree with the method, and but it is still it is basically they are treating it as a game of how do you stay relevant, because most of the other exchanges are already doing it. If you see Big One, Whalex, Who.com, these are all new entrant, and I think it is a problem, and it is this is exactly the reason why Dan is coming in and even willing to go and make a proposal, which Block One was not ready to do a few months back when Brendan Bloomer started talking about one token, one vote, and then he pulled back and never ever wrote an article or a recommendation, which they had promised. So now, again, I'm not sure if Dan has reviewed it is with the Block One lawyers and if they will again stop him from doing it. This is the challenge in EOS world, where Block One has not been effective in controlling what is going on mainnet for good reasons, because they don't run the mainnet. Legally, they cannot run the mainnet. And they are just a token holder like you and me. And also they are, because they ran the ICO, they cannot even vote with their tokens. There are a lot of challenges here, I think, which we are seeing. So if there is a recommendation coming from Dan, I hope that that will be taken seriously, and hopefully these things will change. So nobody likes it, what is going on. Nobody likes some of these new block producers' method of coming into top 21. But as I said, some people have mistaken my comments earlier. So I'm not justifying that this is good. What I'm trying to highlight is the block producers are doing their job. They are still running the chain at a good reliability. And this is what I look at. There are some great tools available at EOS Aloha portal. We look at the metrics of what is going on. Let's look at the benchmarks. And some of these, if you look at last 6 hours, now what is this green? Bitfinex, EOS Wiki, and CoChain. So even the CPU benchmarks of this, some of the newer, like a Nudex or something, are pretty good. They are almost as good as most of the other block producers. So I don't think there is a major issue here in terms of how this, this block producers are running the show. It is working very well. EOS is still performing, and some of these co-chain world is very old block producer. Nobody was questioning them for such a long time, and they are the highest in CPU. A big one, yes. This is the new one which we should question. Bitfinex has been there for such a long time, and if they are not performing as good as others, yes, these are question marks. And we are looking for. I'm talking to many block producers. I think many of them are proposing some of these metrics, which are around performance, around reliability. If some of the block producers are missing the blocks, they should be removed from top 21. So these are some great ideas. Right now, we are discussing in the proxy channel, and many of these BPs are actually working on this kind of ideas to be proposed. And this is going to be great for how EOS will mature in near future. It's not about because ultimately, whoever is getting into this top, whether they are offering rewards or whether they are trading votes, everything is as part of the protocol today. Nobody has said that at a protocol level you cannot trade votes and you cannot do partnerships. If the couple of BPs we like, we and they have some sort of agreements and they endorse each other, and they tell voters to go vote for each other, we don't see any problem with that. Similarly, these guys are maybe trying to convince some whales or some other voters, or even by giving rewards, they're trying to convince you. It depends on how you see it morally, not from a technical perspective or more not from a protocol level. There is no such issue that this is right or wrong. And as we all coming from the background that we do want a decentralized world, we do want better reliability, or in terms of the quality of teams who have been working hard. We do want a fair chance for everybody, and that's why we are looking forward to these governance level changes being proposed right now, and hopefully we will see that improve. Then there is another question. Don't you think a lot of governance voting problem have to do with vote decay? So I think vote decay is not a huge issue now if you're using Scatter or if you're using some other tools. Nowadays, I think Scatter allows you to auto refresh your vote or proxy. Yeah, so you can do that. And if the average token holder is not voting even once a week or once in 2 weeks, even if you do once in a month, I don't think it's a huge difference for an average token holder in terms of vote decay, because vote decay is accelerates to later, but I think it's still pretty good weight if you're voting once a month. And if you are not using the network, I agree there may be some impact because of that. But I think right now, because of the exchange voting, the biggest impact is because of these exchanges leading the vote trading cartels and trying to get to the top 21. There, if you look at it, okay, let's go back to the top 21. If you look at it, in the top, they are way bigger than most of these um, coming in the bottom. Like now, the difference is almost 20 million votes even between number 1 and number 20, which is huge. And so I think these exchanges, as the market becomes better, so as you can see, we are in a bull market. There are a lot of trading happening. More and more exchanges will get tokens. This is how it works. Most of these exchanges become more and more powerful over time because they take commission from you every time there's a trading. The trading volumes. Let's go look at EOS trading volumes, and you will see that the EOS trading volumes are huge. We are talking about $3 billion worth of EOS traded in last 24 hours. All this is going to based on the commissions this exchanges take and the fee they take, they are generating a huge amount of EOS for themselves. So the whatever we are talking about in terms of even the BP inflation reward, these are nothing. So this is what you need to see, and you need to understand that this is not going to be competitive with any other BP. Like, what are these exchanges doing, by the way? When they give away you this reward, how are they benefiting? They are not benefiting. In fact, they are even trading whatever vote trading they are doing. They are giving away all of that money back to the voters. What they are getting is you as a customer going to their site, using their site and increasing the traffic to their site and generating revenue on the exchanges, because the real money lies in the exchanges, exchange business in crypto. um, there's the block producers and they cannot compete with the exchanges, and that's why it's a matter of how the business is driven and how these people are generating money. I think there is no doubt that in the end, this will continue evolving, and more exchanges will be in top 21, and they will be running the show, unless we change this protocol. And that's where I think Dan is coming and planning to put a proposal for changing the consensus. Whether it gets approved, that's a totally different question. But I think all of them are seeing this happening. So I don't think there is any way we can change this now. It is going in the direction where exchanges are going to run the show, and it's very similar. I think this is all we have seen this movie play out before in Bitcoin, Ethereum world. There used to be a lot of miners. There used to be a lot of smaller mining pools. Now, slowly, it went back to the miners who are driven by the hardware manufacturers who are running ASIC-based mining and so on. And that has happened before because they had the strength. Because in the mining world, hardware and the mining hash power defines it, who runs the show. Similarly, in proof of stake, it's about who owns more token. And usually, exchanges will always own more tokens because of the volumes they are trading with and the commissions they are generating on a daily basis. And it's a huge volume. Ultimately, any token which is traded, this is the biggest problem of crypto world. Exchanges own the most number of tokens because whatever happens, whenever it passes from person A to B to C, you are always paying a commission to an exchange. This is why the only way to fix this issue is if you don't use centralized exchanges, if people learn to use the decentralized exchanges. So from that perspective, I would not go against any decentralized exchange. Like Nudex, in principle, they have served EOS community very well by running the only decentralized exchange which has volumes and which is very, very successful. So because I believe in decentralized exchanges, because I believe in, but still, I think they are still earning a lot of commission. So it's not that they are any different in long run. But I think ultimately, what I'm trying to highlight is this: as you use more and more decentralized exchange and peer-to-peer trading, that is only way you can justify that one day people can get control back. So depose is tough, and I would say this is not something which I did not expect. But yes, it is happening too fast because of the one token 30 votes. And as I have been talking about ever since Brandon Bloomer came out with one token one vote idea, I was always telling people that that's one of the best ideas they have come out with. Unfortunately, there was no follow-up from Block One. Unfortunately, even the BPs we love, they got worried about their own kind of tokens because they are realized that their vote gets divided, and they were all suggesting not to use one token one vote at that time, and it never caught up. And now I think more or less everybody agrees that that was a great idea, and I hope that now with whatever new ideas come out of Block One and Dan, they do insert that in some form, because vote trading will definitely reduce. And I don't mind if people are bringing their own tokens. Definitely exchanges will still be in top 10 out of the top 21, but I believe that there will be a good chance for independent block producers with the strong teams using community support if we implement one token one vote and some other parameters. I think Dan had very interesting ideas around multiple criteria to select block producers. It need not be only one style of voting in terms of tokens. It can be more. So there are multiple articles being written by Dan, one after another, on governance. I do recommend you to go to Medium and read all his articles, and you will understand what's going on. So then there is a comment about, I think some people, it's a mixed thing. I think a lot of people are saying Nudex is good. Not a lot of people are saying it's bad. I think, as I said, right, it's a matter of, it's not about good or bad. It's not about what it means for EOS. I think it's more about where you stand in terms of, it's a moral issue. It's not a protocol level issue. It's not a technical issue. It's a moral issue. Whether you agree that this is a good way to justify to get votes or not. And that is up to you to decide individually how you want to vote, and not about what Nudex is doing, because what they are doing is very similar. It's much better than what others are doing. Where, for example, let's go back and look at some of the block producer I have been raising voice against, even from day one. I think if you watch my videos 1 year back when we just launched with the top block producers, and I was always questioning ZB, Huobi, and Bitfinex in all my videos. These are the people we should be questioning, and I have been questioning for the last 1 year. We even proposed a voting scheme which can be public on the public chain, where we can enforce these exchanges to use that. I don't think the villain is all the new ones like Nudex. The villains are if you really believe that you should not allow this kind of a vote trading and so on. I think if you see Huobi and ZB, they are voting with the wallets of a centralized exchange. They don't even own those tokens. They have not even taken permission. Nudex is at least voluntarily asking you to assign proxy to their proxy, and they are not using uh, tokens without your consent. So it's not breaking any law, or there is nothing wrong. It's the problem is this whole issue is because exchanges will always control more tokens because we have given them rights. If you're watching this video and if you can carry your tokens on the exchange, then you have no excuse to go complain about EOS governance issue because you are adding to that issue. Holding those tokens in exchange is the biggest problem as a token holder, and not what you are blaming Nudex or anybody else. So I think that's what my comment is about exchanges. We have discussed this enough. I think we can take some other questions if you have. But let me tell you, means this has been the thing which I have been fighting against from day one. Unfortunately, exchange token balance is still more than 50% of the EOS tokens are still on exchanges. And we love to have the liquidity. It's our problem. We don't rely on decentralized exchanges. If you believe that there is a case for EOS, and if you like the governance model of every voter making their own decision, then I think we need to make sure that we ourselves, none of us are keeping a single token on centralized exchanges. That's the only thing which is going to solve this in the long run. But one more thing which I always believe in is these centralized exchanges are also helping spread the token. So that is it's a problem which is not easy to solve because they bring in a lot more investors into EOS, and we do like more people buying EOS because all of us want EOS price to go up. So this is not that easy problem to solve. All right, so there's a question coming in: how different will be EOS Finex from Nudex? I think EOS Finex is a new exchange which is not yet launched. It will be coming in end of July. It is supposedly going to depend upon how many tokens they list. If I understand correctly, it is still a EOS token exchange. It's a decentralized exchange like Nudex. The difference is Nudex started with a kind of a centralized model of matching uh, this orders off chain and not matching on chain. But Nudex is now moving to on chain order matching, which they announced, and EOS Finex is launching with on chain order matching. So that's a good news again. So it will be like more decentralized than what Nudex started with. But I think Nudex has a pretty good ecosystem already. They have hundreds of EOS coins listed, and a lot of people are using it. EOS Finex has to first show how many coins they're going to list. So that is something I would watch out for. And once they announce how many they are supporting, we need to see, because it's a big name. People like Bitfinex is a huge exchange in centralized world. We need to see how many people start using EOS Finex. So technically, I think we expect big things from them because they come from a big team, and we do expect them to do a much more polished project. But I think Nudex is as good and higher volumes right now. So let's see how these compete, and it's a more of a matter of difference between a existing, widely used exchange, and they are trying to, and they have no option, right? I think Nudex, when you see, they had no option but to do something to keep themselves relevant, and that's what they are doing. And they are also buying back the tokens. They are trying to create a Binance model. I agree with you. So you just put a comment, Bernard, that it is Binance of EOS. I kind of agree. They have tried to copy the Binance model. So what Nudex is doing is they are giving you discount. So I don't know if people are using Nudex. I use Nudex a lot. So let me talk about Nudex a little more. So they do have these VIP programs where you can own the tokens. So again, I am not endorsing Nudex as a BP. I'm talking about Nudex, how much value they have created in EOS world with the exchange itself. And I think what you're seeing here is they give you discounts. So let me see if there's enough information here, unless I sign in. So I think what they talk about is they are trying to create some sort of a model of Binance where they give you discounts for the fee. They give you they're buying back their own token, which is new, recently added using the BP revenues. So there are a lot of things which they're doing, which is similar to Binance, and I agree they're trying to copy as much of existing models. So I think that is something which will definitely differentiate them as compared to what I don't know EOS Phoenix how they are going to do. I think they have a token recently launched, which is Leo token, and I have not followed that much. So I need to see how EOS Phoenix will operate. All right, so guys, feel free to ask your questions. So now I don't have anything else to discuss. I did talk about price. I did talk about how the markets are doing. We did cover the governance aspects of what's going on and how Block One is trying to influence now. And we are waiting for Dan's proposal. And some really interesting ideas are coming across. My only concern is some of these ideas are very extreme. Dan is talking about changing the whole model around only 10 slots for with voting and some 11 slots with totally different criteria. I don't know how easy that will be to implement technically as well as getting it approved. So let's see how that comes across. But feel free to ask more questions about other aspects, and we will try to take them. And especially with the summers up in front of us, I will not be doing as many videos. I will be out on vacation next week. So let us see if you have any more questions here we can take. One important question: with the newer version of EOS, it will require a fork. I was under the impression that EOS would never need to be forked. Okay, so you need to understand the fork, the terminology as fork. So when you say fork, I think every time you make a base protocol update, it does mean in some sense that it is forking, but any major upgrades you need to do. So this fork is not the traditional crypto fork where there will be two versions. It's mostly going to be all the block producers will come together who are producing and they will migrate together. It's more of a code upgrade. In technical terms, yes, it is a fork, but effectively it is not going to be a fork. So EOS 1.8, this is more of a protocol upgrade. It's not like a Bitcoin style fork where there are two coins generated out of that. So from that sense, we thought that EOS does not have to be forked. That's right. We do not have to. But I think it's more of a matter of what changes were done. So as you know that we have already gone through in last 1 year at least 10 to 12 times or maybe more number of times when we have upgraded software without a fork. Most of those changes were not at the consensus layer because the consensus layer has been made more secure by Block 1 in 1.8. That consensus layer can only be upgraded when I think we do a hard fork. That means we replay all the previous blockchain transactions. And that's why I think we are calling it hard fork. When can we expect EOS 2.0? So as you know that EOS 1.8, which was released in April, this only got a stable tag yesterday. So it's like it took almost more than 2 months to get us to a stable version of 1.8. 1.8 is a hard fork. It will take a long time. As I understand, somebody technical has to confirm it. The 2.0 does not need a hard fork. And I think the 1.8 to 2.0, there will be upgrade process which will be much easier. But 2.0 cannot be done without 1.8. So 1.8 is, I think, a bigger change, and that will define 2.0. Second part is that 2.0 is not yet released from Block 1. It is only announced, and I don't think they have given us a date. They have said it will be in the summer. So let's say in the next couple of months, maybe they will be able to release a release candidate for EOS 2.0. And I would assume by winter, we should expect EOS 2.0 with all the new features we were promised in June. So it's still a long way away. I think 1.8 itself is a big upgrade, and we're all waiting for that. So Bruno has a follow-up question. No token change then? Yes, there is no token changes. There are no multiple tokens needed for this fork. So do not confuse it with the existing hard forks. It is just a hard fork in the sense that it is a bigger update on consensus algorithm, and that's why a consensus layer, when it changes, everybody has to upgrade it at the same time. You have to replay. It's more of a technical term, so you don't have to worry. As a token holder, I don't think you need to worry about this hard fork. The question is for the voice, they need, you have saying that this week they release 1.8 and it is needed for, I don't know exactly what the question is. So what you're saying is the 1.8 is needed for voice, but remember, As they have told us many times, the voice will not be launched on mainnet directly. They will first launch it on private testnet with the beta version. They will sign up people, and the plan is that on the mainnet they will launch voice directly with all the people who are already onboarded with KYC and everything, and they will launch with all the beta users, and that will be when the dependency of 1.8 will be there. At this moment, I don't see a reason why Block 1 cannot launch it on private testnet, because 1.8 is already stable. Even before that, they had a pretty much almost stable version running at their ends for a long time. So I don't think, I mean, people see me complaining about this, but what I want to tell you is that voice should be here in our hands right now. I definitely don't like this delays, because it's killed the momentum which EOS had built. We missed out a big chunk of bull run in last month or so, ever since the voice announcement, because of the disappointments after that. I think Block One has to tighten up and start delivering at least the beta, because we are not even looking at mainnet launch in near future, when they will really go out with marketing, with bringing influencers and so on, which all of us are excited about. I'm not trying to say that okay, voice is not a great thing. It's a big thing for EOS, but we would like to see a little better progress. That's what I complained about in last video. I think a lot of people misunderstood my comments that I'm trying to be bearish on EOS or something. What I'm trying to say is the EOS is doing very well in performance in terms of dApps. I've talked to hundreds of apps very regularly because of the part of Blockstart as an incubator, as our like the funds we are raising and so on. We talk to VCs and so on. I think EOS is improving every day. The visibility of EOS, the teams which are working on it, the developers which are coming across. My only complaint is that the big announcements when Block One makes, they need to do a better job of building the momentum. And I was hoping that voice beta would be in our hands right now. And there's nothing. I don't see any dependency for them other than maybe they are not ready. All right, so then we have a few more questions coming. Let me quickly take them. So we are in the last phase now. What are your thoughts on using time zones or geographical areas for voting distribution on BPs? I think it is. There are a lot of ideas which are coming across after Dan wrote that article about randomizing or trying to do a little more than just one criteria for selecting BPs and assigning different weights. So it's a very interesting idea. I think it's still an experiment. Remember, these things are not yet modeled, or forget about modeling. I think even nobody knows till you really implement. These are like game theories, because you're talking about real money involved. You're talking about people who are trying to be in top 21, and how these things can be gamed. Nobody can think of that. So it's very difficult. Geographically, it makes a lot of sense to schedule, because technically when you move from one BP to another, you have a latency involved, and the farther apart these block producers are, it creates a bigger latency. So there was a discussion within the BP world that you can schedule, like right now it is based on, I think, just a round robin, but you can schedule it better if you have like proximity and reduce the latency. So performance tuning of a blockchain is a very complex area. So I think that is definitely going to be helped with if you do some more distribution based on time zones and geographies. But also, I think there are a lot of ideas being discussed right now to randomize this block production and also geographically distributing it. I don't know if that's the ideal way, because how do you know that these block producers are capable? Just because they're geographically spread, that doesn't mean that they're the right block producers. Because for running a protocol for reliability, it's not just about one aspect. There are so many different technical aspects about all of these BPs. And at this moment, that's why I keep going back to this reliability trackers and so on. I have no concerns. Even with, yes, we have concern about geographical distribution. We are concerned about how decentralized we are considered. But I don't think that's a big issue, because as I keep reminding, that Bitcoin, Ethereum and all, they have all mining pools, and they are very big brands now. Everybody trusts them because of the way the protocol is built. And EOS, even if the block producers stop producing, as long as we can use the backup block producers, as long as we are actually, that's where we are spending our effort on. As a proxy, we supported a Chainrift, which was doing a backup block producer rotation code, and they're still working on it. We do want all of these backup block producers to be tested, because some of them have never produced, and we do want them to be ready if they need to. So those are the kind of things which are more of a reliability issue for blockchain, and for these BPs, those are bigger issues than focusing on who is benefiting from it. People are building businesses here. They are like, some of them are on top, some of them are not. That is a smaller issue. I think it's a governance issue. It's not a protocol level issue. And of course, I think everybody's trying to fix that governance issue also, but it's not going to stop you from using the blockchain. It's not going to stop you from being successful as a dApp developer working on EOS. And that's what it's all about. I don't think when the end user, they will use the blockchain apps, they will care whether it's being where it is the block is being produced. Just like when you buy an iPhone, you don't care that each and every iPhone is built in China, and we are all buying it. But we still believe in Apple brand, and that's why we are buying it. Every Bitcoin is almost being mined in China, but we are still believe in Bitcoin being decentralized because we believe in the protocol. So I think this is something which we need to keep in our mind before we start making one thing a big issue and creating FUD around a protocol. So EOS is strong. Yes, EOS governance can be improved. Yes, we can get better distribution and stronger block producers which are not just exchanges but technical teams adding value. All those things are great, but it is not a problem for protocol. That's what I've been highlighting, and I think a lot of people have misunderstood my comment. I hope that I am clear about that what matters is whether EOS is performing well, whether we have enough dApps developing on it, whether we have enough users coming into the chain, which is what going to make EOS successful, and not these minor issues, which I'm sure will get solved over time. As DPoS is still new, people are still learning how the governance should be implemented, and everybody has been talking about it. It's not that they are not. And as I showed you at the start, and I've been talking about it ever since. So even Block One is now getting involved, and Dan, which I think, who is responsible for creating this and for bringing so many people together and making EOS successful, if he's saying that he's willing to come and propose something, I don't think it's a big issue. We should just wait for that and see how the community responds, but we should not make a big deal of it. That's my point. If we are, as EOS investors, we don't need to create a FUD around why it is a bad thing about geographical distribution and one continent producing more. I don't think that's such a huge issue unless somebody clarifies to me why it's a problem. All right, so last couple of questions, guys. So let's try to conclude quickly. It's getting pretty long stream. Do you think EOS will be a mainnet or just another? Sorry, I don't get this question. Do you think EOS will be a mainnet or just another chain communicating with multiple chains? So I think it depends. A lot of people talk about multiple chains and IBCs and so on. Today, we have not seen EOS even being used to maximum capacity as a mainnet. And there are a lot of solutions coming which are helping us scale. Like Rex itself was a huge progress. And now I see that the cost of CPU and net is so cheap on mainnet. Why would I even run on sidechains? I don't see a reason for doing that. Then secondly, one example is Liquid Apps with RAM, VRAM, that is enabling so much of cheap RAM that there is no reason for me to run on sidechains. So at this moment, we are working on so many apps. We are talking to so many applications. I don't see anybody at this moment worrying about mainnet not able to support them. Yes, at some stage, when we have more and more apps coming, there will be more chains which will be needed. And I'm sure there will be layer 2 solutions. There will be a lot of other solutions which will come across, and apps will make a decision. Ultimately, a sidechain solution without carrying EOS accounts, I don't see how that's going to be very, very effective, because ultimately it's a network effect. All of us have EOS mainnet accounts. We can log in with our same account, and we don't want to maintain so many different accounts for each sidechain. So unless people can build a model where the same EOS account carries across chains, it's very difficult to justify sidechains and all these different ideas we're talking about. But as I said, there are a lot of innovative ideas already being formed in layer 2. Rex is a part of the protocol. It's made it so cheap to go and run on mainnet. Liquid Apps is a layer 2 solution, which is making the RAM cheap, which was the only bigger concern, which is a persistent cost. So if you understand, if you're already a dApp developer, let me explain you. Or if you're not, let me try to summarize. I hope you follow without boring you guys. But the EOS RAM is a persistent memory. That means you have to pay for it, and it never comes back to you if you're still running the app. But CPU and net, they keep refreshing, and right now the cost of that using Rex is so low that you have to pay like very, very low amount. And if you don't build a business case where now that CPU and net is so cheap, so the running cost is very low, and your one-time cost of RAM, it's not very high. And if you really need a lot of memory and a lot of storage, you can always use VRAM. Then why would you worry about side chains? And this is what I think is the bigger deal, like what we have in the EOS. And when I talk to these dApp developers, when we are working with these dApps, nobody is worried about mainnet cost anymore. And I think EOS is capable of doing much more than what it is running right now. And I hope we will see those things very soon before we even think about we need more chains and so on. And as Dan have said, the multi-threading and some other performance enhancements are very soon coming to EOS. As those things are implemented, the capabilities of EOS will continuously improve, even in the mainnet releases as we go across. EOS is not static. If you look at Ethereum 1.0, that has been like sitting on the same peak performance for years and years, and people are still using Ethereum. And EOS in last 1 year, we have gone many levels up from the base performance itself. And with Rex and all this, I think it's become cheaper as we go along. So I don't see why we cannot use EOS for a very long time to come. When I say very long time, I'm saying in crypto terms, like at least for another next 1 or 2 years, we should not see any bottlenecks on EOS mainnet. And I'm sure by that time, there will be more discussions around IBC, sidechains, and whatever solutions, which we believe that a lot of people are already working on in this EOS domain. So I hope that was useful. While I didn't want to go too technical on this, but I think you need to understand the difference. As a dApp developer today, there is nothing stopping you from developing on EOS much bigger apps than what you are running today. So do you agree that June 1st announcement was very lackluster and the block one waiting to get involved game is hurting adoption? So, okay, I don't understand the full sentence, but if I understand your message, I have been saying that. So I definitely, June 1st event was great. The announcements were great. I'm more disappointed with the follow-up that we did not see a lot more readiness from their end for voice. I think that was the only thing, because EOS 2.0 is still not ready yet. It was more of an announcement of the roadmap, which they showed, which is very exciting. All of those announcements are very, very exciting. I don't think I would say that was lackluster. What I would say is the follow-up and not being able to launch voice on beta that is hurting today. But irrespective of that, I think the dApps are working very hard, and I have so many great apps which are coming across. I'm not worried. I think even if Block One does not deliver, which I doubt, I think they will still deliver on voice at some point, maybe a little late, but definitely it will be a huge thing. Voice is a huge potential. But I think community is doing even better. I mean, some of these ideas we talked about in the last video, some of these ideas are so good, and they are doing so much work and raising money of their own. They don't need the support of Block One in that sense. And that's what decentralized ecosystems are all about. It's about people who are really doing it. Okay, last few questions again, guys. So I've just 2 more minutes. So what do you think about BEOS? I have not followed it much. I believe they have very strong community in China. I've not seen much in rest of the world, so that's unfortunate. I think they have done some private sale, and they have not been very upfront about the token ownership, which has kind of hurt. I'm sorry, I think I'm confusing BEOS question with BOSS. Maybe I'm talking about BOSS. If you can remind me what is BEOS, somehow it's slipping my mind. So sorry for that. I mostly talked about BOSS chain as a side sister chain. So please clarify what is BEOS, and I don't think I understand that. What is Vigor token? So yeah, I've heard about the Vigor token. It's a kind of a stable coin. I've not spent too much time on it. I will look at it, and what I hear it is a DAC model, which I really like. I think they are using like EOS DAC framework, and they're building their own kind of DAC-based stablecoin. So I would love to learn more about it, and I will be able to comment. But I have heard some good things about it. I do believe that they are trying to make it very similar to Maker in terms of technology, but they are running it as a DAC. So which is a good thing, because DACs are a pretty cool idea in terms of running it in a decentralized manner. And I'm a big believer of that. All right. So again, I think somebody confirmed BEOS is a sister chain. If it is different from BOSS, I'm sorry, I have not heard about it. Um, so then last question, do you think it's a bad idea that I sold all my airdrops for EOS tokens? Again, it's not an investment advice. I cannot be advising you on what is good or wrong, or like right or wrong about buying or selling tokens. What I can tell you is most of the EOS tokens have not done very well. They have consistently dropped against EOS in value. I don't know many EOS tokens which have done well over time. So I'm sure you must have been happy by now, and you can buy back at much cheaper rate if you did early enough. So yeah, I mean, that's definitely depends on what you gained or lost based on the opportunity. But individually, it's very difficult because there were so many airdrops, there were so many projects. It's almost impossible for one person to track all of them. So people do end up selling. And if you don't understand your investments or your holdings, it's not unfair to sell them out. This is one of the reasons I was not a great fan of every project just airdropping and assuming that they will have value. It didn't help their investors as well, because people who own and want to keep these tokens, their value also keeps going down. So giving airdrop to everybody is not good for the project, not for even for the people who are getting these airdrops, because the airdrop value goes down. Giving tokens to people who really participate, that is, I think, very, very good idea. But if you're not able to even participate, you don't know what this project is about, you're not participating in it, getting a token, usually it will go zero value, because 90% of people or 95% of people will never pay attention to every project, and they will just see it as something they cannot track. They just sell it out, and they will kill the project in the process. So it doesn't help anybody. All those free airdrops which we were thinking will help, that was a kid scenario where EOS just blasts off. Every EOS project is seen as a gold mine, and a lot of people are coming in from outside investing in it. Then those airdrops make sense, which of course did not happen. We hit a pretty bad bear market after EOS launch. Most of those airdrops meant nothing, and I think that's what killed the airdrop scenarios and airdrop market. So I think that's where I don't think it was a bad idea if you did that as an investor, but definitely it was a bad idea for the apps, because they suffered because of people who just sold. So from EOS ecosystem perspective, for those dApps, it was a pretty bad idea what you did. But as a personally for your own finances, I'm sure you may have made a good choice by selling that for EOS. All right, guys, so we are running out of time. So thanks for joining. It was some good questions. I hope it was useful. We will try to be back. But as I said, it's summertime here. We have a lot of vacation time for kids and everything. So we are going to be back maybe little longer time. So let's see how the markets do. As I said, I think there is some glimmer of hope because we have a bull run in Bitcoin. It's sustaining above 10,000. So final remarks. We are very positive how the markets are heading in dollar terms. EOS, which has not been doing very well in Bitcoin terms, has taken support at long-term support areas, and it has kind of formed a triple bottom. If it continues from here, we all hope that EOS will keep doing better and better, and hopefully, from a long-term chart perspective, it will start improving. And governance, I think a lot of people had questions. The summary is, yes, there are a lot of people working on it. Dan himself is planning to put up a paper, and let's see how that is taken by the community. But in summary, nothing is going wrong with EOS as such. A lot of great performance at the protocol level. A lot of exciting developments at protocol level with 1.8 and 2.0 coming. Some amazing dApps, some amazing teams launching the projects, which is going to see a big change in how you see EOS with the real usage coming. I'm not talking about casinos. I'm not talking about games. I'm talking about real business projects. Even in the gaming world, the maturity of the projects we have seen with the things like item games, with the mythical games, and so on. It's like some really high quality stuff coming. And let me not forget Prospector and so many other. I think the quality of games we are seeing today is way different and way more high quality real games versus 6 months ago. So but I'm not talking about gaming also, there are a lot of other projects which you will see very soon, which we are seeing right now in early stages. You will be really surprised how much kind of this potential EOS has. And that's what we're all going to look forward to. And let's talk again and be in touch with us. Please feel free to leave your comments if you're watching later. I really had fun hosting this live show. It's always good to interact with all the viewers, and we will be back maybe in 15 days from now or 2 weeks from now. Thank you once again. Bye.